I want to say this. One of the biggest things that I learned at Erlam is that, so we always learn about this in school, about globalization. They ask you like the typical question, what are the pros and cons of globalization? People start listing off random things. And to me, I believe globalization affected the world in a horrible way, in terms of stealing resources and making sure that people feel like they're inferior to a certain image, either through weight or body image or skin color or identity or religion. That's one thing. But I think globalization also, people who wanted globalization to spread didn't realize that it's going to help people connect more together. And although they come from different backgrounds, they're going to try to understand each other's struggles more. And they're going to find a way to fight together the certain systems that oppress us. Because to me, the world looks like a few rich are ruling the rest. And I think there's no way to defeat those oppressive systems except for working together. There's like power in numbers and power in multiplicity of beliefs. Yeah.
But still, I believe that there's still something lacking in the activist movement in this school, if you allow me to say, because like when I witness all those movements of going out and shouting and everything, like I choose not to join because I don't understand the problems that deeply. I don't want to do it just because everyone does it. But like I think if we have more conversations of people from different backgrounds right on this campus, this will give people some perspectives to join.
Yeah.
I guess,
Yeah.
Because like, for example, after the election, like our school is so liberal and we only see, protests from one side, opinions from one side. Why actually on this school there are also a lot of people who like support Trump for their own reasons. And that's understandable, right? But we never know the opinions around this.
Yeah. I think the what's showing up at Erlam though is very different from how it is outside. I think the voices that are silent here are the are the powerful ones out there. They're the ones that control the political system, and it's now more evident with Trump. But I do see your point about not hearing their voices. Because the majority of people who voted for Trump, or a lot of them, are poor white people, and not all of them are just simple bigots who want to be racist. They're seeking a certain economic agenda to benefit themselves and make sure their families are surviving. But I think the problem with that is that those same people, those poor people, are being tricked by the government to think that they're working for their own benefit, when their struggle is very similar to a poor black person. Like a poor white person, you're more likely to find more similarities with the black guy living down the ghetto more than the rich white American who's ruling your country. Yeah. So I think activist movements need to work on their I don't want to say propaganda, but more on their outreach and how they deliver their message, to make sure that everyone says, actually, that speaks to me as well, because what the government does every time there's elections, they say a bunch of stuff that is not much different whether you're a Democrat or Republican in terms of economic policy, at least. The Democrats at least are sort of human in a way, but they're still messed up, but they're still like, at least let's have some health care for those poor people. But I see both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party as a rich 1% choosing different methods to control people. The Democrats are neoliberals who invest in useless stuff that doesn't help people, like sports or like, what's the biggest thing in the U.S.? It's sports, because that's where all the money goes. No one cares about healthcare or education in a way like it does in other countries, like it is in Canada or Finland or Sweden. Here I feel like it's more random because of neoliberal policies, things that will make money through corporate power. And then the Republicans, they're basically a war machine. That's how I see them. Like, let's bomb the whole world and let's make sure that we're the strongest and no China products. And like, it's basically like closing up on the world and saying this is us and we're the strongest and no one talk to us. It's neoconservative policies that are racist and sexist, and they want to control they want to control everything basically. And then they still talk about a reduced government through economics. So they preach to the poor through reduced governance, although that only helps the big corporations in reality.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
Actually.
So I think the problem is the lack of education and the lack of awareness in activist groups that, if you have a certain, like, it's, again, the power of labeling, like, you're a Republican because you're a racist. It's like, no, what if I am there because I don't have the right education to think that actually some government policies will help me prosper.
And I think this connects back to your point about like how white liberals actually try to think of themselves as pure and try to think of anyone who objects their ideas as, like the first thing they do is not to educate them. The first thing they do is to disparage them.
Yeah, I think the same exists. So this is at Earlham because that's where the power is. It's in liberal circles. Those are the people that can advance things here. I think if you go to any other school that is more conservative, you will find the same from conservative circles. If you say the wrong thing, you will be more isolated or disparaged because they are the ones that hold the power and they are the ones that control the talk basically on campus. So I think that exists everywhere. It's not really liberalism or conservatism. To me, it's more about labels and power. Yeah. Exactly. So that's why I would say that's the last thing I would describe with myself with is a liberal. I'm not a liberal and I'm not a conservative. Because again, they're reminders of what those two things are. They're Democrats and Republicans. They are the ones that have the power. Because here we can see like students that say I am Democrat, and once Trump was voted as president, the response is fuck you to Trump because fuck Trump. But the actual Democrats that hold the power, their first response is we're going to work with the president because they both work for the same interests. They both work to make sure that the money stays with the right people, that they're still bombing the right countries, they're still killing the right people, they're still taking oil from certain countries. They're doing whatever they like to this earth without restrictions. That's all they care about. Yeah.
So what I can see is that you are trying to imagine the world along like more lines than the lines that the power structures are trying to impose along the class line for them. Rather than just the racial line.
Yeah. And I think that's what governments try to do. They try to group us and label us. But they're really working like that's why in the US the two-party system is the worst thing ever because you have a choice between two. Like it's not even like multiple choice where you have four. Like in any other country, you feel like there's more parties and more people running for president and you have more options. Here it's like you have this person, he says pretty much the same as her. She's sort of less messed up on women and like maybe on immigration I think she's just as disgusting actually. But like she's maybe less messed up on these couple things, so vote for her. It's like, okay, but I don't believe in both of these ideals, so maybe voting doesn't even make sense. And then even my votes don't count eventually because I'm in a Republican state and I want to vote Democrat, but my vote wouldn't get counted because the only thing that matters is electoral votes. So the whole system is not really a democracy per se. And then I honestly can't see how a democracy can function in a capitalist system that doesn't have any restrictions on it, because the less restrictions, the more corporations that are going to grow and the more they're going to have a say in governance and power. So I don't see how you can be both capitalist and a democratic at the same time.
Actually, what you just said links back to something that some economics just brought out recently. The evil trial. You cannot have liberal government, the capitalist market, and like something equality at the same time. You really have to choose. Yeah, right. It's really interesting conversation.
Yeah.
It really like cleared some of my previous assumptions really about you and actually about the movement campus too, because like I didn't have a lot of chance to know about people I label activists before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last year, actually, that was a sort of a different thing. So to me, that was more about something that happened to me in my study abroad. And also seeing...
Where did you go?
I went to India,
Oh.
and we went with Julie Bayer as a program leader. She's a math professor. And I tried multiple times to talk to her when she like she said offending things, and it just wouldn't work. And then I came back, and a lot of people were pissed off at her already from earlier years. And there was the whole campus thing going around, because I think a lot of people were hurt, and they're not feeling like they're listened to, especially at Earlham when they're having already a financial problem, so Earlham can't do much. Even if they want to do much, they can't do much. And they have an administration that doesn't listen to students much. I think they see us as kids more than students. So I think there was a lot of anger and not much planning. And I think the Earlham administration handled it perfectly, in a sense that they diffused everything without changing anything. I think they're good at that. They diffuse the situation, but they don't change anything. They make sure you're heard, but they just hear you and throw that in the trash. Because they are struggling financially, and they are thinking from a financial perspective. They are not thinking about the students. And I think I do understand that, sort of. But I think Earlham is making the wrong financial choices as well. I think they can work on, instead of like just making buildings, they could work on the programs that already exist and make sure that they have stronger departments, at least in LBC, because a lot of them are understaffed, and the professors are not getting paid enough. The same with their food too. They're not really investing in the right things. And that's why students have a hard time staying in this school, because you come for a program and then you discover that it doesn't even exist here anymore. So when I came, there were at least 4 Middle East studies. That's my minor. 4 Middle East studies professors. Now there's only one, and he doesn't teach many classes on it. So yeah, it's hard because the administration is worrying more about the financial aspect and ignoring the academic one. But I think Earlham still maintains its status because of the professors that are already here, because they are very professional and dedicated. They care about the students. They value us as if we're graduate students who are getting their PhDs basically here, I feel like. All of them have PhDs and have traveled the world, and have some sort of international experience. They are aware, and they are here to like educate us about the world. And I think that's why a lot of students struggle with what Earlham is, because in the classroom it's one thing, and then when you talk to administration it's another thing. I think there's that struggle to deal with very open-minded professors, and then very close-minded administration staff people.